Greetings. This is the Emergence Speaker Series focusing on the themes surrounding the Saturn Neptune conjunction on February 20th, 2026. I'm your host, Marina Orms, and I am chatting with some wonderful guests to help you navigate the changing times and work with these important transits to help us shape the future in the best possible ways. More details about this series are available at transformationalastrology.com, where you can sign up for a free account and get early access to each guest speaker's video. Go ahead and get a free account at transformationalastrology.com, and you will see all of the videos there, as well as be notified of future events. Today, I am so excited to welcome our next speaker in the series, Venesse Guy. Venesse Guy is a certified astrologer, teacher, and founder of Astro Woke, offering depth-oriented astrology that bridges myth, embodiment, and lived experience. As a deaf astrologer, her work centers on ethical practice, accessibility, and helping people navigate periods of disillusion and emergence with integrity and courage. Welcome, Venesse.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me here. Beautiful introduction. Thank you so much.
Well,
I'm so excited to be here.
We are so honored to have you.
No, I was just for reference, just for the ASL signs, we've got Saturn and then Neptune. In case anyone is watching me sign, the two signs are Saturn and Neptune.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that we have history here interpreting for Venesse. So thank you for helping us out. We're looking today at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction related to especially people who were born with Neptune in Capricorn. So tell us what your thinking is about that. What do you want to share with us?
Yes. So first of all, before we really even dive in to Neptune entering into Aries, in general, the circle hasn't quite started, right? We really have already, we're going through our life experience. We've had a long life. We're living through dismantling right now. And this is related to Pluto and Capricorn since 2008. And so Pluto has already been kind of restructuring institutions. This may be in regards to your work or the systems that we know or our sense of stability and what that means to us. We may be questioning that. And that comes from that Capricorn energy, and Capricorn represents structure. We could think about this in terms of governments or big corporations, hierarchies even that we're used to or that have been around for quite some time now. So Pluto really exposes what is no longer serving us. And it's been over 15 years, and many people are starting to experience institutions falling and becoming dismantled, or dismantling identities or authorities, or becoming disillusioned. The structure of survival is even cracking.
Yeah.
So for this generation, people that have Neptune and Capricorn from 1984 all the way to 1998, that generation, it's no longer abstract anymore. Neptune, represents dreams, spiritualities, ideas, and this collective kind of consciousness. And we know that Capricorn represents structure and legitimacy, and people often experience the influence of the systems on their dreams. It may inspire them. And people on their spiritual journey may feel that they're ready to really get in tune with that. And this generation, we're seeing a lot of astrologers, a lot of spirituality businesses, people focusing on tarot and ethics. And so we're seeing a lot of that right now. And their visions are often filtered through success or gain or belonging in terms of community. I'm not sure if you used MySpace way back when, Marina, in the 2000s. I mean, like, I'm a 90s kid. So, Y2K. Did you use MySpace, Marina?
No, I'm a little bit
Oh,
older.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yes, so, that generation, Neptune was in Capricorn, kind of using these new technological spaces. And so when MySpace came up, it was when really social media started to grow and the influence of social media around the 2000s. You'd make your profile and put it together. You'd choose the music that you want for the background. You'd design how you want to be seen externally. And, that identity became something that we built, this kind of public identity, right? And then little by little, this became what people saw. It became our reputation, what people saw through social media, what we know is our brand now. And it really shaped how people viewed us. Even when we would use kind of this, we would use this to spotlight almost our self-worth.
Hmm. It's a very,
And
it's,
so this kind of gave way to the systems that we look to now. And so not only were we creating this idea in, externally of who we are, we had this idea of who the systems were as well. And Marina, you
yes.
were going to say something?
Thank you. Thank you. So uh, it's a very public way of experiencing your personality. And also your story becomes made real through this experience of this social media structure.
Exactly. Yes.
And so, especially for that generation, how would you say this is unfolding in related to what we're experiencing now?
I think this generation is a little bit of a different story because way back when MySpace, it was like, we would design, it was artistic. We would have to code with like HTML, right? And we would have to fix the system right there. So with this generation, this is just easily accessible. It's already created for them. It's just a little bit of a different style. But the 2000s, we had to really build and present who we were, and we were really the architects of that. But now, kind of, folks use social media to spread awareness, to find information. And so, also, this generation realizes how different these things were before and how inappropriate they were, and how all of this can impact mental health. And we're seeing the impact of social media on mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So before now we're seeing maybe declines in alcoholism and drug use, But now younger kids are addicted to social media. And so we see a lot of these parallels, but they look a little bit different in today's world. And that's a little bit in relation to Neptune and Aquarius, what, 1998 to 2012. That timeline really is when social media kind of exploded. And that's when social media began to mean something to everyone. But before, it was more about what we built and what we designed and our vision for that. So it definitely has changed over time.
Yeah, that's I love what you're saying. Do you think that for this generation, that there's through that disillusionment that they might be discovering more um, solutions?
Or you mean like the Neptune in this generation or Neptune in Capricorn?
Neptune and Capricorn. Um, and specifically, what I'm wondering is how, for that generation, seeing the problems that the previous generation created that we are living through now, and to see for that generation and for this square to see how they can solve some of these problems or how they can be part of creating the future in new ways.
That's one of the reasons why I mentioned about Pluto and Capricorn, because Pluto and Capricorn really kind of passed our Neptune in Capricorn for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like our dreams are crumbling before us to the point where we're starting to wonder, is is my vision, what I'm imagining, sustainable even at this point? Or does it create uncertainty? So Pluto's not just about restructuring, but actually sitting on our generation's dreams and really kind of creating this pressure and to expose our illusions in relation to success or authority. And this generation has this question of, is this vision mine? Is this dream mine?
Mm-hmm.
And so Neptune squared with Saturn is creating kind of this next chapter of dismantling systems and experiences. Oh,
Do
go
you
ahead.
have do you have a sense of how can people of that generation think of this as an exciting time, or how can they think about what comes next and how to be creative?
Really, it starts with us having faith in your belief system and yourself and how to make your dreams come true. Now I recognize that more folks in their 30s, 40s are creating their own businesses so they don't have to necessarily be told what to do during the 9 to 5, so they can be self-sustainable. I want to talk a little bit about my personal experience that maybe could apply to this generation, not an analogy, so to speak. So, personally, this is not a theoretical example. This is me and my daily experience, and I'm experiencing vision loss as a deaf, blind person. My vision is deteriorating, and I have limited vision. And so, my vision continues to deteriorate, I already have an idea of what my structure or what things look like visually for me. But that is consistently changing over time because I'm losing my vision. And so each stage of life requires me to let go of how things used to be, or how they used to look, or how they used to work. And I have to find new tools. So, as an example, before I could drive, and now I'm no longer able to drive. And so then I had to start leveraging a mobility cane as a new tool. I'm having to figure out new rhythms to my life. How do I have to work during the daytime, not so much as night because of my vision. And so, how am I really navigating this new world that is changing for me, kind of the day to day? Again, this is the dismantling. And so that cycle applies to this generation as well.
Yeah, I think that could apply in a lot of different ways. I'm sorry you're experiencing that, um, and it's also inspiring to see how you're discovering the new tools and being creative to find new ways to navigate. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. With Neptune entering into Aries, or just having entered into Aries, that's when Neptune has the first square where people has have Neptune in Capricorn, which squared, which means it's creating this tension for people to wake up. It's a wake up call. It's not a punishment. It's just this kind of beginning, initiation for people.
Mm-hmm. I yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead, Marie.
oh,
Oh, sorry, let me add. And again, with this disillusionment that many of us are experiencing right now and will continue to experience, it's not necessarily failure. It's just, again, when the illusion falls away. And Neptune squared Neptune is that's what we can expect. You may feel, I don't know who I am anymore. The dream I was chasing doesn't feel right. The systems that I previously trusted aren't holding any longer. The work or the career that I've built for myself may feel misaligned. And so a lot of people are experiencing that as we speak. And so it's not a bad thing, it's an opportunity for an awakening. It's
right.
not necessarily a collapse.
Yeah, yeah, and can be very disorienting. And so, like in your situation, you are looking deeper within to find, well, what is this? What is opening up to me? Yeah. And there's grief there, right?
Yes, exactly. My journey taught me that grief has its own cycle as well. And I've learned that from my deaf-blind community. They say grief has a cycle. And I didn't quite understand it until I started to experience more vision loss. And then I would grieve, and then I would feel better and find a new tool, and then I would lose more of my vision and have to grieve again. And so it really became this cycle. And it's, not so dramatic that we envision grief, but it's just a loss. You maybe imagine that you can do anything, or you can do this, or you will have that, but you may have to grieve it if it doesn't come to fruition, or if things change, or if maybe you have an idea of who you are that is no longer. That's part of grief as well. So I really, actually, let me add. I'm just trying to process. Oof, feeling a little emotional. We have to grieve what feels normal sometimes.
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
And not in a catastrophic way, but maybe more solemnly. Maybe we lose the loss of ease, or like as an example, losing the ability to drive. My lifestyle had to change. My patterns had to change, my routines. And then I had to spiritually reorient myself.
Mm.
What is working? What is not? What's left after this reorientation? And Neptune squared with Neptune, really, as a collective, we may be feeling that loss of certainty. And it's really an opportunity for introspection, a really deep introspection, listening to what our inner self says. We can't rush this stage. We have to sit on it long enough to get out of that day-to-day survival and really just do that soul searching of what my truth is, what I want, what's my future look like.
So powerful what you're saying. And and so that is a kind of work that doesn't look like work, or maybe not to the outside world doesn't look like work, but is very, very important work.
Yes. That is what I notice with our generation now. We have to give them time to grieve. We're
Mm.
so fast-paced and our environments are just go, go, go. And so when things collapse, we just want to jump in to fix and solve, and we just have to honor our grief sometimes in the moment. And so that's in relation to Neptune and Pisces, Pisces being the sign of grief. And Saturn was recently in Pisces, and that happened for a reason. Saturn in Pisces prepared us for a reason, and now entering Saturn into Aries. Saturn in Aries reminds us that it's not about the hustle culture, the go, 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 the reactionary culture, solving things immediately. It's really about the discipline and being courageous to look internally and really to embody that courage. Actions come after grief, not the
Mm.
other way around.
Mm.
You can't just move through it. You got to take a minute, sit with it, listen to that grief, and then move on.
That's so important.
Yes. Were you going to
Yeah.
say something?
um that For that generation also, the Saturn, or the Neptune in Capricorn, Saturn is such an important planet to your spirituality. And so structures and how we create. And what I'm noticing, what I'm thinking about as you're speaking, is that we have had this culture of expectation, this culture of, um, you know, the world is defined in a certain way. And then you have this generation that's trying to fit into, trying to follow the rules with Capricorn, Neptune and Capricorn. And discovering that maybe the rules are not, uh, or the structure that follows those rules is not all it could be. That's what it
Yes.
makes me think of.
Yes. Right. Saturn definitely is our teacher in relation to our belief system and always is a good reminder. Saturn in Aries asks you questions like, what are you doing now? What is yours? Not based on survival or based on what you're used to or based on what's expected, like you just mentioned. What do you really want? What is for you? Sometimes embodied courage looks like leaving a system that maybe defined who you were. Maybe someone who grew up as an example, Jehovah's Witness, and decided to leave that community. That's not just changing their belief system, but also stepping away from a culture that they had previously embodied as an identity. Maybe it influenced their relationships or their world perspective. And it's so courageous for someone to leave a community. I mean, maybe that even means that they're shunned. And so that type of departure really requires huge self-authority, not just like a rebellious and not for rebellion's sake, but more so in alignment. Like, is this what I want? Is this what I feel? And that self-empowerment to leave systems that you were previously growing up in or previously a part of.
Beautiful.
And I also wanted to add that based on my personal experience with Saturn and Aries, every time I have to kind of change to a new stage of vision loss, that question was, okay, how I used to say, how can I force things to be how they used to be? But now I'm looking at what tools do I build to create a reflection of who I am now? Like as an example, as a deaf-blind person, I am do still have some sight, and I used to be able to chat with people very easily, but now that my sight is changing, I may use protactile communication, which means that I am touching someone's hand to be able to communicate, and I have to communicate through touch. And previously, I didn't like that, and I wouldn't accept that as a part of my identity until I went through that grief and empowered myself. And then I realized that information is important, and the new normal for me is gaining it through touch. And touch is even taboo in some cultures. And so, but for me, that's my access to information. So, yeah, that is just kind of a personal experience of mine. And
Mhm.
Saturn and Aries, just to kind of end, is not loud, it's ethical, it's integrated, it's self-empowering. It's not necessarily just doing what everyone else says or following the system or using the system to guide yourself. It's more so being trusting in yourself and who you are and really looking at what's left after the disillusionment falls.
Mm.
And so we can't, again, come to this point by skipping the grieving process.
Mhm.
When the false things fall away, we have the opportunity to really see what is true and authentic to ourselves.
I love that. And the so the grieving and you referred to spiritual bypassing when you were telling me about this topic, and which I think is what you've been sharing about. But it makes me think of a different speaker who spoke about the dissolving of the caterpillar in the chrysalis, and that the letting go of the old identity that involves really things really falling apart, and like you're saying, to really feel that in your body as a way of allowing that process to complete.
Exactly. Allowing the process to complete. And again, in my experience in my community, some people don't accept their identity and they're still living in that illusion. And that gives them more hurt compared to those that let the illusion fall and grieve, introspect, and then build anew. And so that's what I really notice, that people that don't often accept that, like people that don't accept that they're going, that they're becoming deaf blind, then they just run into more challenges. Maybe they fall more frequently or they're running into things, but they're suffering more just to keep the illusion. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And when I
Yeah.
see that, it's tough until they finally get to the point of where they're tired of suffering in the illusion and being hurt, and they finally let go. And then they start to accept the new tools that will help change their lives.
I think that's true in so many different ways. There are so many different ways that could manifest. And but it's that idea that when we can't uh, move through our process or we resist that, then it's harder for us to get to the rebirth part.
Yes, exactly. When my illusions fell and I went through the grief process, oh my gosh, I felt so free. And that is exactly what Aries is looking for. I can be independent. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, one big lesson for me as a deafblind person, once you know your needs, people can't take your power. But if you don't know your needs, that's when people start to tell you what you need. They'll tell you what's best for you. They think that they know best. And they say, you should do this, that, and the other. And then you feel so confused of other people's opinions versus your needs compared to when you know yourself and know your needs. People respect that and really give you that autonomy. Because again, when these illusions fall, you're like looking for advice and tips, and that's when really this, people can start to take your power, all with good intention, but again, they take your power and keep you stuck in this system. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. That um, when you have when you know your own needs, and that's the Saturn part, right? That is the inner strength that gives you the resilience. And when you have that for yourself, which is Saturn in Aries, then you're more autonomous, more independent, and more effective.
Yes, exactly. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I love what you're saying, and I think that we I what I love about this is that we went through the ideas about grief and the feelings of dissolving and dissolution and loss, and that it actually feels like through the course of this interview that we moved through the feelings to the place of feeling more empowered. So it's such a gift.
Yes. Oh, that gives me chills. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you really listening and being so attentive and giving me this space to feel safe to express myself. And I'm really have blessed to have met you in person at the conference. But before we wrap up, I just kind of want to close with a few thoughts.
Please.
So as we're entering into a new cycle of emergence, it's not something that's like an emergency, we have to do it now, but it's more so that it has its own rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
This cycle will eventually become something that we can practice. And I'll give you kind of 3 steps for anyone in case they're experiencing this journey right now. First, name what's dissolving.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to name it, recognize it instead of denying it, of course. Second, allow grief to happen without trying to fix it. And third, act from what remains true.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel like something right now is dismantling in your life, just sit with that question.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what's left. Look underneath the rubble.
So potent.
Yes, and it is so important to really lean into that foundation because that foundation's been beneath the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. And what uh what did you say? Act from what is left. Act from what is left.
Yes, we have to accept what's left instead of asking for more or
Mhm.
expecting more or looking for more.
Yeah, so powerful.
Yes, yes.
And
So those are the themes that have been coming up in relation to this. With Astro Woke, these are things that we're looking at and looking through.
yeah.
And so we talk about that and we focus on really embodying these changes and helping people through their cycles and really integrating these practices. So this cycle is not about rushing. It's about allowing what no longer serves you to fall away and to let things take shape and trusting that it will take shape. And
Mhm.
again, that's Saturn and Aries. We're all building.
the the Aries wonder, the wonder of being in the moment can also allow us to notice what is there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And I think this applies to all of us. So I think you came into talking about the Neptune in Capricorn generation, and I feel a lot of resonance with these ideas for myself and for the things I've been talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We are all connected and we have to remind each other who we are, and this just really applies to everyone. I agree, totally.
Thank you. Anything else you want to add?
I think for now,
I
take time to process for those of you that tuned in. If you're grieving, just look at where Aries falls on your birth chart and let it sit there. And that's where you're going to find what's left in your foundation and in your structure and what's really underneath. So that's all for now. Take some time to sit with it.
thank you. Thank you. And I want to say that I don't know where else you share. I do know you're on Instagram, and Vanessa's got some wonderful videos on Instagram sharing about this and other deep topics um, uh, in just a very approachable way. And there's the captioning. Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
because that's integrated into our language.
Yeah, and there's captioning, so if you're hearing or deaf, you can still benefit from these.
Yep, for sure. And also, I do offer readings and consultations for hearing people that don't know sign. I'm still able to provide readings. All you need to do is request an interpreter. And of course, there's a little fee that helps pay for the interpreter's time, but we can absolutely work together. I don't only serve deaf clients, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that really we can all become a bridge to this community and we can all be connected. And access to astrology is for everybody.
Agreed. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for and astrowoke.com is Vanessa's website. And
Thank you so much for having me.
you are so welcome. What a wonderful and meaningful connection. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Hugs. Thank you. Bye.